Hello and welcome to the Steel City Grid. We're looking at the Pittsburgh districts, which happened just last weekend. I'm Colin.
And I'm London.
And we have a great matchup here. We have Wikignometry playing Hoshiko on your left there, and then we have Kevinth playing a really interesting Teia brew on the right.
Yeah, so there's a number of different Ateyas that we've seen go around since the ID came out. But now that we're in the cut, Runner has full information and knows that this is going to be the kind of fast advance adjacent with Flowerstorm and Ginger Grid and Timely Public Release and some seamless launch.
Exactly. It's just Seamlesses trying to push out 4-2s, Jinja to allow Flower Sermon to do a really interesting almost fast advance install pattern where you can install at the very end of the runner's turn, allowing you to seamless launch almost as a fast advance tool, along with just keeping R&D safe and a couple other things. We see that Kevinth has just started setting up, and Fa has as well. These are both relatively slow decks, though Hoshiko has a lot of ability to get a decent amount of pressure early via just regular one cards, Dirty Laundry, your Raindrops Cuts Down. What do you think about this matchup, London?
I was going to say this is kind of like a Reg Hoshiko, which I think is pretty good at matching the speed of the court. It's got a lot of money if it needs to get rich, for example, against Atea stacking race, or it can just slap Bankar and run anything. So as for the matchup, I think Atea needs to find a way to put on the pressure, which is not uncommon in this meta, I think, for Corpse. So I think that means maybe trying to get some early scores. Cohort's already down to help that, and then you can use your fast advance tricks to maybe close the game later.
I also think that this is a matchup that is pretty important to get a early, just get an early enough money lead that you can threaten to res and Anansi against Bankar.
Oh yeah, the 6 net damage. That rude interaction, I'm happy to see leaving.
Yeah. We see Echelon coming down, not the breaker you necessarily want to have early, but it does let you check. And with Hoshiko money, you can usually check pretty safely against it, especially if Corpse not on 8 credits.
I think one more breaker, and then you're pretty happy to check, being able to break Saisentan for 3. Currently paying 6 against Saisentan, I mean, I guess we're spoiled. Back in the day, you'd have to do stuff like that with MK Ultra.
Yeah, here it's just the cost of doing business, but it's not one you want to have to pay.
So I think this Atea start is a little slower than one would like. It's not the worst the cohort's going, but I think we've seen one Spin Doctor go through now. So Corp not finding Rashida, for example. But now we have a 2 ice remote. Maybe that's an agenda. This could be picking up the pace.
What do you think the upgrade is over the cohort? I guess Jinja or Virus.
I guess Jinja is the idea. You're right, it could be Mavirus. But I don't believe there's any Lacostas in the list. So yeah, Jinja would be my first thought.
Yeah, looking at the list here, it's just 3 Jinjas, 1 Mavirus. The rest of the influence spend is just 3 more Seamless and 3 Spin. So a very clean influence spend. We see Fa putting down Leech and playing Raindrops Cut Stone with maybe on what looks like HQ, deciding whether to res. No res.
We're gonna access one.
This is a deck on the Corp side, but it's super important to get out the Flower Sermon, for instance, early. There's the Anansi in hand, very threatening. Of course, with Jinja, it's pretty easy to get it installed on the server where you need it, or on the other server, just to protect either itself or allow you to fast advance at the same time. But Flower Sermon here, a very unusual card, not one that we see a lot. This is kind of the deck that it was made for, or at least the one that utilizes it best. Flower Sermon is a 4-2 that says when you score this agenda, place 5 agenda counters on it. You can spend one of those agenda counters to reveal the top card of R&D. You draw 2, add 1 back from HQ to the top of R&D, using this ability only once per turn, so this can help keep R&D safe, and that was kind of the original idea. But because of Jinja City Grid letting you reveal drawn cards to install, you can use Jinja to install. The Teia ability triggers, allowing you to install in the other server. That other server does not have the no agenda clause that something like Asa Group does, so you can, at the end of the runner's turn, draw a card, install in the other server. That other server can be a agenda, and then you can seamless launch it out. Timely
Yes.
public release kind of lets you do the same trick.
Yeah. So two different kind of faster chance of base pieces. But Flower Sermon was actually intended for Hyobu, but then that ID kind of maybe fell apart without Engram Flush.
Mm-hmm.
So now the Rashida's gone off, which means the Corp's in a much better position. Looks like 12 credits, lots of ice installed, another installed in the remote, could be agenda again. And it's good to get archives iced here, both for maybe Hoshiko purposes in a turn or two, and also because there's a leech.
See a Tattoo Bolo res on the remote, bouncing off of that.
Which is kind of the ideal ice here. You want just enough to keep the cohort safe, which basically means an end the run for 2 credits is perfect.
Yeah, and especially with having it as the innermost ice, you can put something more threatening on the outside to eat a Bonhard trigger, and then after that, you can. They still have to go get their barrier breaker. Speaking of which, another Tatu Bola, protecting the innermost of the second Altea server.
Wiki not showing any fear here, running the 2 ice remote, Corp's only on 10 credits, which is enough to res anything, but only 1 big ice, which I think means it's a fine decision to challenge this. Unfortunately, the Corp has another Tattoo Bola, so it's 2 credits and go home.
Yeah, I think that's one of the keys to playing Reg Hosh right now, is that you have so many duplicate cards, you cannot be too precious about them. You have so much draw, just play your cards. It doesn't matter if you hit an Anansi. It doesn't matter if you hit an Anansi with a Bonhar. It's fine. You have other cards, you can redraw them.
Although here, with the leech counters, you could actually break that Anansi for 6, which is not the worst.
Yeah. Speaking of which, Bonhar comes down, and Hoshiko flips back. It seems like Wiki has been very judicious about making sure that Hoshiko stays flipped.
Yep, and on 20 credits, now it's really just a race to find the breakers. Corp may have a window here, and yep, they're using it. Seamless launch. Oh, and it's the Flower Sermon. That's great.
And there's the Flower Sermon. That's great. That's exactly what you want to see first. That or the timely public release is decent, but you kind of want that to be your second, so that because the Flower Sermon gives you the ability to push multiple times and also protects R&D at the same time. There's using the Flower Sermon ability immediately, revealing the hedge fund and putting something back on top.
Flower Sermons also just draw 5 cards over the course of the next however many turns. So scoring that first is great for tempo reasons.
For sure. We also see in the list, in terms of money, Regolith, Cohort, Charlotte, and Rashida. So almost all the assets, other than Spin Doctor, let you gain a huge amount of tempo, let you res all of this big nasty ice, the 2 Vampire and Nasas, 3 Anansis, and interestingly 2 Sadakas, which you're absolutely very glad to have in this matchup.
Yeah, I think they're good both in reg matchups with twinning and also against ice destruction. So they're maybe a meta call. They've definitely gone in and out of favor, but I think I've seen them be put to good use. So they're a niche but powerful ice.
For sure, especially since you have to spend, in this particular deck, far fewer clicks installing ice, both because of the Altea triggers and the Jinja triggers, than you would traditionally. There we see the Sokka's alt art Boomerang.
Before the encounter phases are from, use Flower Sermon?
So here we see Corp is trying to use Flower Sermon to draw some ice to swap with Tattoo. Unfortunately, I believe they waited until after this routine evolved, at which point there's no longer a payability window to use that Flower Sermon. Niche little rules issue there, but we caught it, so no problem.
Access? Unknown first?
Access, and it is
It was a Jinja.
Teia, so it was the Jinja.
We draw 1 and gain 3.
What do you think about the decision to leave Jinja there?
Yeah, that's interesting. Wiki certainly has the money to trash it, and I feel you will want to trash it at some point. So, I personally might have trashed it. Maybe she's waiting for a Miss Bones or something.
Or for the Corp to spend money resing it. So, unlike, I suppose, unlike something like Charlotte or, with Charlotte and the other grid, that's a pretty hefty investment on the Corp's part. Unfortunately, Jinja is a single credit, so I'm not sure that would quite hold up. On the other hand, you do want to wait for the Corp to actually start using it, and I just don't think it's much of a threat right now.
Well, if they res it, they could be getting a fast advance done. Here they are resing it.
Mandatory draw.
That's true. Let's see if that happens. So,
fair.
no reveal.
Flower Sermon.
And we see a Hermes come down. Hermes Hoshiko, slightly older archetype we haven't seen in a little while. One that I'd be very glad to see come back. It's my favorite Hoshiko build. Lets you maintain a huge amount of tempo, lets you continually push, and then it's also very good. Hermes lets you close out games very safely by just stealing something off of the top of R&D, either with Finality or a big twinning. Then you can bounce what you need out of the remote and go check it to you. We see install, putting down 2 cards in the 2 Teia remotes.
This is going to make Wiki choose with Bankar where she wants to go, because until Cleaver comes down, or maybe a Boomerang, you can't get through both.
We see click 1, run.
Was it just a Bankar? I think that might have been Bankar
I
targeting.
think you're right. I think you're right.
Second Leech found. Oh, and there's Cleaver.
There's the Cleaver. That is going to make keeping Wiki out of the server much more difficult, as the only other end of ice is end of run ice that isn't a barrier now is the single thimble rig.
Right. So if you're willing to go through a Vampire Nasa, which if you want to do that 1 or 2 times, that's okay. Yeah, you can get in just about anywhere. Of course, the Corp's game plan is to fast advance at least the last agenda, I would think. So that's not the worst for Teia, but it is putting the pressure on.
Face down.
See another Spin Doctor pop face down, and that very important seamless launch functioning again as something like a fast advance piece here.
So this is something I wonder about the Teia list. With only the 3 seamless and no La Costa, you're relying entirely on those seamless and any cohorts you can stick to help you score out an agenda. Otherwise, you're going to have to leave something advanced for the runner to go after, and you don't have defensive upgrades as well. So to me, it feels like you're kind of a little bit at the mercy of drawing those pieces, and there's not so many of them.
Yeah, I agree. There's definitely, maybe not consistency issues, but it's just something that you have to build around and be mindful of. On the other hand, having stuff like Flower Sermon really does help you push through to find those extra cards relatively quickly. See a somewhat long think here, trying to decide how to proceed. These are a relatively low amount of ice has been drawn. Obviously, you want to be able to protect all your central servers. There we go. Is he using that regolith? Just getting more money to res some of this ice later. But Altea wants to be drawing and installing a lot of ice. And usually, you'd like to have 2 or even 3 pieces of ice on each of these remotes at this point.
I'm surprised we haven't seen the Tattoo Bola swap yet, which is kind of like you're saying, there just hasn't been the ice to do it.
On the other hand, Kevinth has been managing this very well. There haven't been any agendas stolen, so even if there haven't been a lot of ice drawn, it hasn't seemed to negatively affect the game particularly seriously so far.
Right. So I think if Teia can get to 4 points, it really puts the pressure on the runner because every install threatens the game, and with all of these tricky ways to cheat out at installs, it can be sometimes just about impossible for a runner, even with Clot, not that that's in this matchup, to contest. So I think Wiki might be thinking about, even though this isn't the last score, this could be a critical score push to contest.
Absolutely. And with that, we see, in order to contest that, we see the twinning coming down, being charged, another leech, and potentially a push on HQ or R&D here to try to get a agenda stolen and bounced. Doesn't seem like that's happening right now. So there is the cohort res, draw and discard.
Mandatory draw.
To me, double leech signifies a ton of centrals pressure, which can get converted into contesting whatever server you want. And so this kind of, I think, really puts the pressure on Teia. They need to get to 4 points, at which point maybe they don't care about their ice so much. But in a few turns, these leeches are just going to go right through whatever ice you have.
The Corp is running Mavirus, so you can turn this off temporarily once, but like you said, this is going to get real bad real fast. Especially with not seeing those real big taxing ice on centrals. At this point, Anansi can be broken quite cheaply with all the leech counters. But those leech counters are going to start stacking up and stacking together very quickly.
So far, we've seen Flower Sermon used 3 times just to accelerate the Corp's game plan. And that's kind of the power of the card in this list, is that not only does it represent this fast advance piece, perhaps with the last counter, but the first 3 or even 4 can just be getting you the cards you need to make the plays you want to be making.
6 credits. Going for the regolith.
See, emptying the regolith.
Installing.
There is an upgrade left in that remote, either another Jinja or potentially the Mavirus. And then we see install into the remote and install a piece of ice on the other remote protecting the cohort.
An anemone was revealed off of R&D with Flower Sermon. So I guess we're wondering if that's the ice that was installed, or maybe that's still waiting in hand to swap with the Tattoo Bola.
See the last breaker come down, Buzzsaw, and a Raindrops Cut Stone on the first Altea remote with 2 face down cards. We see the res of another Tattoo Bola. So we'll see if we can finally get the Tattoo swap.
Double Tattoo Bola server would tilt me. Knowing you're giving the Corp 8 credits just to go check whatever they have. So much.
4 credits was from the tattoo. Again, no swap.
Okay, it looks like no Tattoo swap. There's another cohort in the server, and we'll see whether this is the Mavirus or the Jinja. It is the Jinja, and it stays.
Wow, the no Tattoo
discredit
swap. Go ahead.
Yeah, that has to feel real bad. Again, leaving the Jinja. I think at this credit total, it's certainly very defensible to not trash the Jinja here. It's 5 to trash, an absolutely just wild amount.
Yeah.
They don't make them like they used to.
Previously, Runner was on like 20 credits. This time, Wiki is on looks like 9 or so. So I agree. Trashing Ginge is a little tough.
Draw 2
Yeah,
cards.
revealing a photo
This is still being drawn. Install. Trash.
using that Flower Sermon trick, over installing the cohort.
Finish drawing, and then put a card back on top.
And let's see if we get the pseudo fast advance here.
Seamless.
There's a card on top, mandatory draw, double fast or double seamless. There's another Flower Sermon,
Tricky.
and still with 1 click left.
Hermes trigger. We're gonna bounce.
So I think the double seamless here is to recover from the Hermes trigger, but depending on what's on HQ, I wonder if you could actually just eat the open central and save that seamless launch in hand, because that could be so useful later in the game to get your last score.
For sure, especially with 2 spin doctors out already. Like you said though, fixing the HQ here with a open, with the twinning, a full breaker suite, and 2 leeches down, I do think you have to really respect central pressure at this point. Even just a token taxing amount on centrals is vital.
Click on HQ.
Looks like Bonkar or no, Von on HQ now.
No rest.
On 17 credits, you can res anything pretty safely, even across all of your centrals. Looks like no res, no needs has come on in. See 2 cards, Rashida and Thimblerig. See 3 cards, Vampirian Nasa, Thimblerig, and Rashida.
Okay, so now the ice is in hand, which makes me wonder with those Tattoo Bolas, maybe they were purposely not swapped because the intention was to swap at the end of the turn to get that score. I previously thought on that run there was no ice to swap with, but I mean, unless the draw sequence is not what I'm imagining, I think it was a conscious decision, which is a very sneaky play.
For sure.
So in hindsight, I've come around on that.
Now with Flower Sermon, this says use this ability only once per turn. That is once per turn on each Flower Sermon, correct?
2
Yes.
counters on each from the HQ one.
You
So
should
this
know
is also a.
better
I
citizen
should.
program player.
2 counters.
So this is a extra good way to really protect the top of R&D. We see a Sadaka there revealed. We're gonna see if we see a install with that Jinja. We do not. See something placed on top. Reveal Sadaka.
And now that this is turning into a Central's pressure game, I think that Sadaka is really being saved for an HQ install. Or sorry, a Central install. Maybe R&D. Maybe HQ.
For sure. You definitely want it your third ice or your second ice down, either innermost or at least behind something, just so that it can't be bonkard through. And there's nothing I don't think in Wiki's list other than Boomerang, which can get you through it without without actually just eating the trigger, right?
I don't think so.
What click is this?
So Boto at threat, Braun at home, but it's fully charged now. But with all these leeches, it doesn't really matter. Still going through it for 2 credits.
We now see, like you said, there's one Tatu swap. See if there's another. Breaking the next Tatu. Taking another 4. And swapping.
Chance
There
that
you
that's
go.
the other Twatu going back.
That doesn't fill your heart with joy. All right, there's the Jinja down. Is that the second or third Jinja?
I think it's second.
I think that's right. Depending on what that face down is.
Mandatory?
Now Teia has the capability to really stack the ice up here, but the problem is with 2 leeches, does it even matter? I mean, I guess you could
Right,
pay
You really
3.
need to tax them out, but it's still so rough.
That said, the runner is low on credits, so there may be a window here. If you can assemble a few relatively taxing ice, you could make a push.
And it looks like the corpse turn there was just purge. I think this is the time to do it. You've got a lot of unres dice. The runner's on relatively low credits. Unfortunately, if they need to make one run, they really can just with Bonkar. We see moshing from Wiki, getting a bit of a handful of cards, some extra breakers. Looks like a one of the Paladin or Mamie.
But since it's 4-0, if the Corp has the agendas to push with, I think you could do a back-to-back push. Just drag the runner through your remote multiple times, and the runner might not be able to get in twice if you can stack, 3 or 4 expensive ice.
See another moshing, just completely cleaning out the hand of all of those old breakers. We saw DJ drawn. Asking to see the discard pile here. I think with 2 of the seamlesses out, you're a little bit worried about the back-to-back pushes. You're a little less worried about back-to-back pushes at this point.
Well, if you're just gonna old school push it, you could just install advance, but you have to have the bacterials or whatever in hand to do this. So if the Corp doesn't have the right cards, this play is not available.
Oh, that's true. I thought this list, I had the list up, I had thought we were on all 2 pointers, but no, there are 2 bacterial programmings here to help close out the game.
Only 2 is notable. I think some lists might run 3 bacterials, if only because it's such a powerful effect when scored or stolen, just to lock R&D, draw whatever you need.
It is a really unique effect too. Just completely changes the entire texture of the game. Completely symmetrical in terms of whether it's scored or stolen. Look at the top 7, draw any number of them, put any number on top in any order, discard any number. It does slow the game down to a complete crawl. Just stand up and make yourself a sandwich while the Corp resolves the bacterial triggers, but it really does change the entire texture of the game, and feeding your opponent a bacterial can be a very safe move a lot of the time whenever you're close to closing out the game, and you want to make sure that I have a couple safe turns where I can do whatever I want.
The other thing, speaking of bacterial, is we're getting a bit late into the game time here, and this game is timed on, I forget, either a 40 or 45 minute timer. So there will come a point when the Corp, currently up 4-0, can consider, can I just drag this game out, lose a bacterial somehow, and then just lock the top of R&D the rest of the game. I don't think we're there yet, but that does become a line at some point.
Yeah, it does become something to consider. We saw double ice up on R&D, so that's probably something, maybe an Anansi into Sadaka, and then whatever was installed there earliest. Quick look at archives, and then we also saw a push in the remote here. I'm thinking that it's probably a Rashida or maybe a Regolith, just trying to bait a run here, get the runner to spend money. Since we last checked in, Wiki has made what appears to be 21 credit.
I was not paying
Hoshiko
attention.
bouncing very quickly.
I was not paying attention to runner credits. How did this happen? It was at 5 last I looked. I guess there was double moshing, but still. Anarch money sometimes. Wild. Anansi archives. I guess with double leash, you simply have to res. Unless you have Mavirus in archives, you must res. But that's going to hurt the Corp's money. Now, we did see a while ago.
Oh, good.
We did see a while ago there was a thimble rig, so that may be installed somewhere, and I believe there could be an idea, if we can get that res, then you can swap the Anansi off of archives at a critical moment. That would be really powerful because it's an 8 credit invest about to get something than just blocking a leash server.
For for sure. Potentially if it's the innermost on, well, I guess it wouldn't be the innermost on the remote, but something like that where you can get it onto the remote during a crucial push turn. Speaking of which, what do you think is in the remote right now? Is it probably just the last Jinja or maybe a Regolith?
Yeah, I'm not sure. It could be anything, really.
No worries.
We see a dirty laundry run on HQ. We'll see if there is any twinning counters spent. Gaining the twinning counter from Mamie, and probably spending twinning counters here. We'll see. No need.
So there's only one seamless left in the list, right?
I believe so.
That makes the remote a lot less threatening because Kevinth cannot score out here this next turn. For example, if there were two seamless left in the list, you can imagine Wiki might consider sweeping HQ to either see if that was a reality or bounce the remote with the release trigger.
I think we're seeing a run on this remote here as well.
I guess it's threatening enough.
The photo.
Has to go there.
Thank you. And I think even if it's just an econ card, it's probably worth trashing when you're this far up on credits and sitting on 3 twinning counters. There's the Thimbleweed. It's swapped in. Just taxing the 1 extra runner credit by swapping it. And let's see. It is the virus. So now that poisons archives, you can pretty safely swap the Anansi off now.
And that was an important run for the runner to make, because otherwise you can imagine farming leech counters somewhere, HQ, and then contesting the remote at just the wrong time, getting purged out.
See a anemone res on HQ, sending the quote down to 3 credits, discarding a card. Getting 2 net here. We have DJ and Earthrise.
I think it's Earthrise, yeah.
Yeah, that's the old, looks like a full art Earthrise. DJ, big hit there. I don't know if I was playing, or if Wiki is playing Labor Rights or Ashen, but losing one of your main recursion pieces here hurts a little bit, especially after, moshing 6 cards away.
I don't think there's recursion. I wouldn't guess that we're going to go down to needing it, but yes, DJ in hand would have been nice, especially with just a lonely anemone on HQ. That would let you charge the twinning every turn without having to worry about finding events for Mamie. You can just pick your own events out of your heap.
Looks like a overinstall on HQ, take 2 credits.
I'm curious what the overinstall is, because I feel like at this point you're poor enough that you don't really want to res too much.
Right, you don't. If this is like a Seisenton, for instance, you don't want to go to 0 resing Seisenton, I don't think, especially with the runner on 12 credits.
It's kind of a no-win scenario, not for the overall game, but just on the HQ pressure, because you don't have the money to res anything big. But at the same time, you must present some tax, or else these leeches are just going to grow.
For sure. Tatu, that makes a lot of sense.
That is the
Now,
cheapest thing to res at -2 credits.
Interesting, we've seen a distinct slowdown in the use of Flower Sermon counters, though we're seeing one right now. It looks like a timely public release being revealed. And we'll see what's put back on top here.
So this is an HQ
run. This is an HQ run. I'm guessing the Flower Sermon there was just an attempt to get something out of HQ and back on top of the deck. So timely public release was not what you wanted to see there if that was the case.
Right, this is the kind of disaster draw of a Flower Sermon.
Okay.
Let's see if the runner can find it.
1, 2, 3. Oh, and there's the bacterial.
Which means Timely must be back on top of R&D.
And bouncing. something back to hand here, though we still have to make all of the.
It gets bounced.
Oh no, bounce first, and then the bacterial trigger because it is the runner's turn. Not that it matters too much.
Now we just saw timely, but funny enough, it might be gone for good. With bacterial, it could be buried 7 down. And that actually raises the question of, is this that point? Are we late enough in the game that the Corp can try to stall out? It's currently 4-3. Depending on what the Corp sees on R&D here, that may determine their course of action. Of course, you still have to present some threat to the runner, so maybe you find some stallables and you just jam. Charlotte would be amazing. Stall advance, give it to Charlotte.
Looked like we saw, if I was reading that hand properly, it looks like that TPR got buried pretty far down, second or third from the bottom. This is one of the most skill-intensive cards in the game, and so it often causes a very long think. Just thinking through, what do I want to be drawing for the next 7 turns? How do I want this to go for the next 7 turns of the game potentially? Is very, very difficult to sort out. It's a very hard skill to even think that far ahead.
Right, because the other direction the Corp could consider is, do you ever have a window to push an agenda in the remote? Now, at the moment, it doesn't look like it, but with a few thimble swaps, this could come up. If you can get a Nancy outermost and then Bodo. I think these leeches are going to be an issue, but maybe a window could appear.
Oh, it was. Sorry, that's not.
So we see some running on R&D, hitting Sadaka without Bonkar, no boomerang. So this is just going to fire here. Probably going to lose the twinning, I would guess.
It's got to be the twinning.
So depending on what you saw, I think it might depend a little bit on what you saw, how many Bonkars have been discarded. But I think in general, you're going to get rid of twinning here.
I guess the other idea is if you were sure there were no more companions, you could go for Mamie.
Oh, that's true. You're cutting off both the accesses and the money. We see a seamless on top. Losing the twinning here is an annoyance, but I don't think it's particularly bad. With 2 seamlesses out of the game, you're not, as long as you're controlling the remotes, you're not in too much danger of losing to a fast advance.
Well, I think the concern here is losing the time. I agree that the runner has a pretty strong control over pretty much every server, but they're currently down to points.
We see a install paladin quite late in the game, but will still make money, and a hedge fund from the court. Having just enough to play that. Back to the runner's turn.
Okay.
Bonkar on R&D.
No rest?
Now, in theory,
On R&D, check what's there. You know it's eventually gotta have to be that agenda unless it gets drawn, unless something else gets drawn, and with no snare or anything in this list, and I think there might have been an earlier version of this list that was playing a single snare. Just as something to put back on top of R&D with Flower Sermon. But without something a threat like that, you can just check every card until you find the agenda that you know is there.
now in theory, you won't actually find the agenda. You'll find the Corp using Flower Sermon. But yes, it'll be good to know when that happens.
There's a Boto Res on HQ that's going to stop any just unfettered aggression. So you only need net one. Leech counter. Oh, there's the Timely Public. Wiki is now up on points, so unless you can fast advance, running here in terms of time, you are now favored.
Right, so this is kind of devastating to one aspect of the Corp's game plan. But on the other hand, runner only has 7 credits plus companion money, which means if you swap Thimble for Anansi, maybe you can make a push on the remote. The problems with Bankar, runner can probably get in once. It's a tough spot.
Install.
And with 6 leech counters, that's rough. Alright, we see install, Teia install, fix the bounce ice on R&D, and I think click for a credit there. Pace of play has definitely picked up a lot with that steal there, going from I win on time to I lose on time, so trying to push anything out here to get back on top.
So that was your turn, and then I finish my turn.
Yeah, but the double install is the power
So you've already
of Teia. Maybe dragging the runner into both of your remotes,
Okay.
or else seeing a score. But it looks like we have.
Okay, click
Hold on time.
and then I'll play
Yep.
this gamble.
Interesting no swap on the Anansi there, though I guess whenever you're just rushing to try to get anything in the server to try to push something out, you don't have time to think about swaps. There is one of them. Looks like the push there at the end was just try to score something, hope that the runner guesses wrong, make the 50-50, and that they can't check both of them on 7 credits. But great game from both players.
Do anything about it?
Very well controlled by Wiki there. Towards the end of the game, that was just a very impressive block and just showcases the power of a very well piloted Hoshiko.
Yep.
Alright, thank you for joining us, and we will see you in for the finals, where Wiki will be facing Sebastian
That
K.
wasn't a problem when twinning